The Unraveling of Modern Womanhood, How the Matrix Breeds Disconnection. The disconnection begins. The world had changed, but they hadn't noticed. Women like Naomi, Claire, and Vanessa grew up believing in the fairy tale. The perfect romance, the man who would never leave, and a relationship that would survive anything. They were raised on. Disney endings fed a steady diet of celebrity scandals, reality TV, and the illusion that men existed to serve them. They learned that love was a feeling, not a commitment. That men should just know what they needed without ever having to say it. And when things didn't go their way, they blamed the men, the patriarchy, society, anything but themselves. Meanwhile, the men in their lives, Daniel, Marcus, and Elijah, were fighting silent battles of their own. The world told them to be strong, be providers, be uncheckable pillars. They poured everything into these women, their energy, their money, their loyalty, their protection, believing it was their role to uplift, to serve, to hold the kingdom together. But the more they gave, the less they were valued. It started small, a dismissive tone here, and I rolled there. Naomi no longer said thank you when Daniel fixed things around the house. Claire questioned every decision Marcus made, constantly second-guessing him, belittling his choices. And Vanessa, she let social media shape her perception of her own relationship, comparing Elijah to men who didn't exist beyond filters and scripted romance. They didn't see it, how they were slowly draining the very men who would have given them everything. Until one day, the men simply stopped. The withdrawal. It wasn't sudden. It was a slow, calculated retreat. Daniel, once eager to lead, now made no decisions at all. He'd rather be silent than deal with Naomi's sarcasm. Marcus, once proud of his ambition, stopped sharing his dreams, realizing Claire only pointed out what could go wrong. And Elijah, the man who once adored Vanessa, stopped looking at her the same way, his admiration fading into indifference. He changed, the women would say, but did he? Or had he simply realized that his presence no longer mattered? A man will fight for a woman who believes in him. He will rise for the woman who sees his worth. He will give everything for the one who makes him feel like a man. But the moment he feels replaceable, unappreciated, or disrespected, something inside him dies. And this is what the women never understood. Men don't leave when they stop loving. They leave when they realize they're pouring into an empty cup. They leave when they see that their leadership is questioned, their sacrifices ignored, and their respect stripped away. And so, the withdrawal continued, the fall from grace. The women didn't notice at first. They thought their men were just going through a phase. They expected them to snap out of it, to return to the eager, devoted partners they once were. But men do not return to a place where they felt unseen. Naomi's home grew colder. Daniel no longer held her gaze, no longer reached for her at night. Claire found herself sleeping alone more often, wondering why Marcus preferred his silence over her company. And Vanessa, she watched Elijah thrive, just not with her. The modern world had trained them well to chase validation, to seek attention, to prioritize independence over intimacy. But it had never taught them the cost of losing a good man. By the time they realized what had happened, it was too late. The reckoning. Some of them blamed toxic masculinity, convinced that men just couldn't handle a strong woman. Others drowned in regret, wondering if they should have held onto their pride a little less tightly. But the truth was simple. It wasn't the men who changed. It was their respect that faded, their appreciation that withered, their admiration that turned into entitlement. And so, the men did what men have always done when faced with a battle they cannot win. They walked away, not with anger, not with hatred, just with the quiet realization that they deserved better. And when the dust settled, the women finally saw at the empty spaces where strong men once stood. The men who would have built with them, the men who would have protected them, the men who would have given them the world, all gone. The awakening. This is not a story of villains and victims. It is a story of cause and effect, of what happens when women trade respect for control, appreciation for entitlement, and loyalty for the illusion of independence. Because men do not leave women they love. They leave women who make them feel unnecessary. And in the end, the greatest tragedy of modern womanhood is this: they didn't lose men. They lost the men who would have never left.